Right, so it is finally that time. I am collaborating with Tyromaniac and Vanity Moth in the same video. I know a lot of people have been asking for this, and we thought that, with episode 6 having just dropped, now would be the perfect time for the trio to get together. This video is part 1 of an hour-long Discord call we had discussing various parts of episode 6. My topic of conversation was Nori's backstory, and that's what this video is about. But I've wasted enough time as it is, so take it away, Uncom from last week. Alright, so with Nori, I might have dug myself into a little bit of a hole here, because across the whole series I've got like a minute worth of content to look over. So we've basically just got...
I was just going to say, most of it comes from this episode too.
Yeah, a lot of it is from this episode. So it's basically that, Khan's weird thing where he keeps all their insane stuff, and then just stuff with Yeva. I don't know, how do you actually pronounce her name?
I've been saying it Yeva. That's how I've been saying it. I don't know if that's remotely correct, but...
I don't know, I don't speak Russian.
She's not relevant enough for me to really care.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So, the basic premise of this is sort of like what happened to her, so we can safely assume that she started out just like another normal worker drone, but then we had the whole collapsing Earth thing that Tessa showed us from this episode, and for some reason they decided to take a look at it instead of just immediately thinking, oh wait, this has blown up a planet, probably shouldn't touch it anymore. And then we get to what I'm assuming is like episode 6 where it takes place, is basically that shot from episode 1 where you see the two humans looking at each other and they just sort of shrug and then they get blown to pieces.
Right, the entire planet just dies.
So for some reason they take Nori and like, I don't know, 100 or so other drones there and infect them with Absolute Solver somehow, which I have no idea how you would actually go about doing that.
You just gotta find one of the worms and just stuff them inside there.
It's like the diagram showed the Absolute Solver spreading to other planets, but if it hadn't spread to Copper 9 yet, then how did they get it to infect the worker drones in the first place? I assume through like internet, but if the planets are already blown up,
where's the internet coming from?
They said it mutates in damaged AI. That was Tessa's whole thing that she said, and we kind of got a hint of that in like the tape from the beginning of episode 5, where it's they could have like just went in there and just messed up as much code as they could and just hoped it came out of there somewhere.
Actually, that does lead on to something I was looking at before. When they scroll through all the things and you get that picture of Nori getting interviewed, and then you've got Yeva next to her, like clutching her eye, which is like dripping oil everywhere. That's the same eye that Dol has her eye patch on in episodes 5 and 6.
Right. And that's where the Absolute Solver always shows up, like the little symbol. That's where it always appears.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen to Nori or Uzi, so there is the possibility here that because they've just gone in and screwed with whatever the hell they want, they've created different types of Solver.
I wonder if they were testing it on the worker drones. Some reacted to it just better than others in how they implemented it. So maybe Nori just had a better reaction than Yeva did, and so her offspring would be able to control it better. But Dol seems to have like a pretty easy time controlling it, and never seems to get infected or like possessed by the Absolute Solver like Uzi's getting possessed in episode 6, even though
at least
Dol
not that we're seeing.
Maybe off screen. But Dol's had like been using it for a longer time than Uzi is, but Uzi's being more punished for it.
You'd think, though, if it was like an infection, that using it more would make it worse. But that's just not what we see happening.
Yeah. The way I kind of looked at it was, I think the timeline of like when things happened is kind of something you got to look at, because it almost seems like there are humans, right, in the lab, in the photos with Nori, like, and Yeva in the lab infected with the Absolute Solver. And it is, like, said, repeat, like, they just keep... There's a train in the background for me right now, and I don't know if you guys can hear it.
I can hear
Trains
it.
Trains are cool.
Anyways, but, yeah, what I was saying, what was it?
Timeline,
the train just
in the room.
Ironically enough, the train derailed my my thought process there. Oh, yeah, the timeline. But, yeah, so God damn it. Okay, now I remember. There are humans in the lab, and we know that all humans, like, it's been beaten over our head. There are no humans left after the core collapse. So what it seems like is they would have done that whole thing, like infecting Nori and Yeva and whoever else they infected before the core collapse happened, which then, you know, when Tessa's going through that whole slideshow and she shows a video of Nori like looking into the camera before the camera goes out. That, and then there's the third thing, which is if you look at like the map of the lab that Tessa shows when she's like, oh, we have to get down there, and it's just like pointing at stuff. It looks like something just broke through, like in that lab. It looks like all the supports are broken in a line, so it looks like something broke through. So what I was almost thinking was, oh, go ahead.
Coming back to that tape with Nori looking back up at the camera, that actually has a name for that file. When she plays it, flashes up on the screen for like 2 frames.
It's like called, final transmission.
Yeah, final_transmission. So we can be pretty safe to assume that and the core collapse were like right next to each other.
And I'm almost going to use that too. It's a theory I didn't like for a while, but I don't think there's a way of running away from it now. I think Nori might have caused the core collapse.
Yeah, and that sort of backs up with everything else that's been happening. And also, I was rewatching the old episodes like a couple days ago in preparation for this. Have you rewatched the start of episode 2 recently?
I've stared at it enough making my past videos, I think.
Yeah, because the Manor flashback?
The Manor flashback, yeah, but like straight after that where they're having the conversation in the escape pod.
Yeah.
That entire conversation just got like completely retextualized because now we know who Jay was communicating with. We know what caused the core collapse, and we know that the humans weren't actually involved with it at all.
Well, I was almost wondering, it was something I was gonna talk about in my individual video, and something I almost talked about here, but it's like, there is a lot of conflicting evidence on who sent the murder drones. Like, I know they said it was Sin, but it's also, I almost want to say it was Jay could have been communicating with Tessa, because otherwise, like, the murder drones were against the Absolute Solver from the start. Like, going back to episode 2, they're like, we gotta stop this thing. When they first found out about Sin, their reaction was, oh, that's not good. So if it was Sin who sent them, you'd think that they would have the opposite reaction of like, oh, this is a good thing. But so I'm wondering if like our squad specifically, like our 3 murder drones, NV and Jay, if Jay was communicating with Tessa, and so and then Jay was kind of keeping the other 2 in line based on that without letting them know.
Because we know there are other troops of murder drones now, definitively. Because
right.
When Jay had that whole projector arm thing up on there was like 12 different spires all around Copper 9.
And so there's also the drones in the lab.
Yeah, the drones in the lab as well. Which is kind of weird. Like, how did they all end up in this one place? Because there must be like multiple laboratories where this is going on, right? It can't just be the one.
Either that or there's just like hundreds of other murder drones and we're just seeing like a fraction of them in this one lab.
I assume since there's like other labs they were sent to take care of, I assume all those other labs have already been destroyed or infiltrated as person's orders, and it was just this lab that had the Sentinels, because I believe this lab's like main thing before experimenting with Absolute Solver was developing the Sentinels, and so because they had made the Sentinels, it's the one lab that the murder drones weren't able to break into.
That is possible. And
well, it could also be... Oh, no, go ahead.
You see, there's something's happened with the Sentinels as well, not just against the murder drones, but drones in general, because in that photo of Nori getting interviewed, she's just like being held by Sentinels, like they're just like under her arms like a dog. Then you cut to today and they're viciously murdering other drones.
Yeah, I think the thing with that is probably because they were test subjects, so they were probably given some sort of like clearance might be the best word for, like, they basically look at the Sentinels and be like, hey, don't attack these ones, we need them. Because the only reason they're walking around the facility in the today era is because of the core collapse, because there's that moment when Tessa's like, oh yeah, we have security against you guys specifically, and you can see the screens behind her. It says like, I don't know what it says specifically, but it's like alert, core collapse, whatever, like Sentinels set to free roam, and so that's the only reason they're like up and walking around.
Yeah, so, without any like human intervention, the Sentinels can kind of just they're probably just on autopilot at this point and just attack whatever they see.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, even more Five Nights at Freddy's parallels that I'm not going to make.
Yeah, Liam...
the animatronics here do get a little quirky at night.
No, don't quote that. Okay.
Liam has been kind of... You've, like, noticed how some of the background music in his STWL or what SSW does not roll off the tongue. Scary Story Time with Liam.
SSTWL.
Yeah, does not roll off the tongue at all. He uses like a remixed Five Nights at Freddy's for like background music of some of his videos.
I feel like I remember noticing that. I generally haven't rewatched anything from that channel, but I feel like there was once or twice where I just sat there and I was like, hold on, is that a fucking FNAF song right there?
Yeah, so him taking parallels from Five Nights at Freddy's is totally something that, like, I mean, Liam, like, wears his inspirations on his sleeves in everything that he makes.
Pretty much, yeah.
He does have a lot of them.
But anyway, back to Nori. What
we got a bit sidetracked.
Just a little.
We only have so much we can go off of Nori, but I was kind of wondering the timeline. Like, she had the Absolute Solver completely control her by the time she broke out of the laboratories, but that was before she met Khan and fell in love with him. So she probably gained control back at some point, and it seemed like they probably lived a happy life for a limited time while Uzi was still a child, and was actually supposedly stabbed by one of the disassembly drones, meaning that she might have had her powers taken away at some point, because as we have seen with the Absolute Solver, that thing, it's just God mode. You look at something and you can crush it. Like, the murder drones are no match against a person with complete control over the Absolute Solver, which she definitely
it took two of them and Uzi to take down.
Yeah, exactly. So
and even then, they only really got it because they had the jump on her with V just appearing behind her.
Yeah,
and that was one of the big criticisms with episode 3 as well. Is just like, how is Eva dead if Dole had access to the Absolute Solver and she got it through her mum? So my guess for that is probably, well, the core's now blown up. There's no reason for these drones to have the Absolute Solver anymore, so it just kind of stripped itself off. But what I'm guessing is that it sort of lay dormant type of thing, so the parents couldn't use it anymore, but in response to like the traumatic situations of them dying or Uzi nearly getting shot, it like woke back up within them.
Yeah, because it only really seemed like show up after that kind of stuff happened, where it was like, somebody actually pointed it out to me, because I always thought it was like the first time we saw it was episode 3 when Uzi stopped the bullet, but then somebody actually pointed it. Somebody pointed it out to me in one of my comments, where it said, like, if you go frame by frame through the pilot, when Jay was shooting at Uzi, you can see there's like a split. There's like 2 frames of the symbol appearing on her eye and like one of the bullets getting redirected.
Oh,
I did not. I
didn't
never
notice that before.
Yeah, I can. Well, for the video, somebody can put it up on screen right now.
Yeah, there you go, guys.
I guess.
So
yay.
The Absolute Solver just kind of disappears off of drones once they're no longer like in danger or needing of it. Is that like what we've kind of come to?
That's my guess.
That's like,
because
it makes sense, but like, what would be the purpose of like, what's the Absolute Solver trying to actually do with, like, why would it even possess them in the first place? It's probably acting for its own like survival, but it has an end goal. It has like a giant like scheme or something that it's doing all this for, but why would it just like give a random worker drone powers and then just go away without ever like taking control of them again?
I don't know. This kind of goes into what I was going to talk about in my like individual video, but when you listen to what Tessa said in episode 6, where she was like, it took Sin as a host and then it took everything. And then you listen to what it said in episode 5, like what Sin said in episode 5, where she was basically just saying like the solver of the absolute fabric. She called herself the exponential end. So it almost seems like its goal is literally just to destroy. Like its goal is just to spread and just spread death everywhere it goes. And so it almost seems like the core collapse was its attempt to do that, and whether or not it was successful just depends on whether or not it would want to do there what it did on Earth.
Well, I guess kind of on from that is perhaps its end goal is just to make everything null, because that's what it's just like seen doing the whole thing. That's what it's done to Earth, right? And we can assume that's what it's done to the other systems, and now that's what it's doing every time Uzi tries to use it and Sin takes over.
Right, it's just null and then black hole.
Yeah, just remove everything, because
isn't that
AI
what like
is
the
evil.
Isn't that like the 1 zeros on the back of like on the wall behind Nori's picture translated to?
Oh yeah, like that binary thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just translated to null.
Yeah, I had to get my comment section to look that up because I couldn't figure it out.
I tried figuring it out on my own, and when it got null, I thought I just like inputted it wrong and shrugged it off.
Yeah, no, I got about 25 comments all telling me the same thing, so...
Yeah, I don't know, I just copied it as best I could into like a binary translator, and then I just fiddled with it until it formed an actual word, because some of the numbers are covered up. And then the first actual word I got was just null, so I'm like, that makes sense.
Fits with the law,
Close
should
enough.
be fine.
It's close enough. It's not rocket science here. You don't need to get things exact.
There is just one more thing I want to cover, just for my part, is why the hell is Alice and those other 2 drones we saw at the start of episode 6 still there? Because it's been it's been like 18 years, and like I can get maybe Alice just like scavenging for parts and staying under there because they don't want to be killed by the murder drones. But the other 2, why are they there?
For some reason, I thought that was like back in the beginning, like just after the core collapse, and like the Sentinels were just set on free roam. But then I rewatched it, and you see like that's literally that is the drone she is picking apart when she's like, oh, the Sentinels got to this one. They took all the good parts.
Yeah.
So they're just late to the party, I guess. They just didn't realize what was going on.
I would assume, like, since not as many murder drones we were able to get in that laboratory to wipe out remaining worker drones, maybe there was like some leftovers, but it doesn't really matter because the Sentinels did their job anyway.
Yeah. And given how much Alice likes watching drones get, mutilated by the Sentinels, you wouldn't think there'd be any left by now, but those still...
She would have just hunted them all for sport at this point.
Which is just, like, insanely messed up.
It's probably one of the least messed up things we've seen in this series so far, honestly.
That is fair.
Any
Episode 4
closing
comes to
thoughts on Nori?
I'm confused still.
Yeah, I think we're all still confused. I have no idea. The entire like Nori backstory thing has kind of been like one of those one of the last things I've really cared about in the series. I think it's a good addition, but it's just like there's so much other things going on that are far more interesting. So I haven't really theorized or thought about it that much.
Because it wasn't really relevant up till now. It was like we got one... She showed up once in that like one hologram in episode 2, and then we got nothing for the next... Other than like the closet with her stuff in it. But that was it for 4 or 5 episodes.
And now she's back and important again, so you best catch up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about it. If you want to go see the rest of what we talked about on that call, Tyro and Vanity have videos up right now discussing V's death and the future of the show, which will be linked in the description and up in the title card. If you want to see more content like this in the future with these guys, or maybe with some new faces, then leave a like on this video and go spam our comment sections. But that's all I've got for today. Thank you all for watching, and have a good one.